Yeah, no, you don't want a guy to call you a doll. Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. If we'll kindly stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Allenson.
Here.
Carmody.
Here.
Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin. Regan.
Here.
Reynolds. Tata.
Here.
Testa. Marone.
Here. All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda item.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the public hearing. So I open the public hearing on the budget. The function of this meeting is for the public to be able to ask their questions of the departments. So the council will not be participating in the discussion. This is merely for the public to ask questions of the departments. Some of the ground rules, well, I'm going to call all the departments first. Please raise your hand if you have questions for that department. All right, 15 minutes or so later, I'm going to call all the departments again. If there are no questions for the department, I'll dismiss them at that time. All right, if there's questions and other people have their hands up, please put up your hand because we're going to sort of go in the order of the groups with the most questions are going to go first. All right, so when I call the department to sit on the dais, if you have questions, please go to the two microphones. We're going to try to do this very orderly. You'll ask your question. We have a new clock. You're going to have 3 minutes to ask your question. At the end of the 3 minutes, I ask you to kindly yield and yield to the next speaker. We'll give the department a chance to respond to your question. All right, you can get back in line if that's your pleasure. And I think that's about it for rules. So moving on to the departments. Anyone have a question for animal control? Anyone have a question for Board of Assessment Appeals? Board of Education? Board of Ethics? Building Department? Cafeteria? Capital Appropriations Reserve? Cap and non-recurring? Conservation Commission? Contingency? Debt Service? Economic Development? Electric Division? Emergency Management? Employee Insurance and Other Benefits? Engineering? Finance? Fire, including EMS? Government Access TV? Health? Human Resources and Risk Management? Information Technology? Inland Wetlands? Insurance Property Casualty? Law Department? Library? Mayor? Parks and Rec? Pension contributions? Planning and zoning? Police Department? Probate court? Program planning? Public Utilities Commission? Public Works Department? Registrar of Voters? Sewer Division? Six-year capital? Social services contributions? Town council? Oh, is that for social services? Okay. Town council? Town clerk? Utilities? Veterans Center? Water? Youth and Social Services Bureau? And Zoning Board of Appeals? All right, I only saw one or two hands for any of these groups. So we'll start with Board of Education. And then in 10 minutes or so, we'll call the roll again. And if your department is not called, then you're dismissed. So if the Board of Education would like to step up to the dais. And if you have questions for the Board of Ed, please come to the mic. Good, if you could just introduce yourselves for the record, please. No, I'm sorry, I mean the board members.
Oh, okay.
Or the, yeah.
Us.
Yes,
Perfect.
Dr. Roscoe and the rest.
Marla Roscoe, Chairperson for the Board of Ed.
Danielle Belizzi, Superintendent.
Dominic Barone, Business Manager.
Mr. Comfort, go ahead.
Bill Comerford, Broadview Drive. Real quick question. How much revenue do you guys generate from the SAGE program?
What do you mean the state?
Your microphone's off.
No, it's on. Yeah, just
Yeah.
look closer.
All right. What do you mean by the state program?
SAGE.
Oh,
The before and after care.
SAGE. SAGE. SAGE.
That's
the
the
YMCA.
YMCA.
the YMCA program. I'm sorry. Oh, I
Feel
thought
like
you
Trump.
said, I thought you said
YMCA.
the state program. Okay. We don't. That's the YMCA that generates the money on that.
Okay, so to be crystally clear, the Board of Education allows the YMCA, this entity, to come in and totally use the facilities, and you don't charge them anything.
They pay for a custodian. I think it's depending on the school, either an hour or a half hour of custodial time.
But the actual use of the facility, heating, the whole 10 yards, there's nothing associated with it. So they get it for free.
I guess we don't bill them for it. Correct.
Okay, so they get it for free. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Board of Education? All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on to utilities, electric, water, sewer.
All three divisions, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, let's do all three at the same time.
Oh, there's questions for all three?
I have questions for electric. Actually, I just have questions for electric, to your point. You just made two divisions very happy. And Mr. Hendershot, if you could introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Richard Hendershot, Director of Public Utilities.
Jake Arborio, General Manager of Electric.
Mary Ann Dill, Business Office Manager of the Electric Division.
Bill Comerford, Broadview Drive. I've asked this same question since the year 2012. And since 2012, nothing's ever happened. I don't know what item it is on your budget, but all our downtown decorative streetlights have never been repainted, readdressed, and I've asked every year to find out when are we finally going to do it. For example, the poles that are out here on Main Street, they have been neglected so long that they're gray. The ones inside the cemetery, you guys just put a new decorative top on it, which is hunter green or whatever the thing is. The rest of that is gray. Everything looks like a hodgepodge. There's money in one of your line items, and every year you said, oh, we're going to address it this year. It's never been done. Since 2012, when I first started asking these questions, is it going to start happening this year?
Yes, the bid's going together as we speak. I hope to have it posted by July 1. As you mentioned, there is a line item for it.
So that money that hasn't been spent, has that been carried over?
No, because it's an O&M expense, it goes back into retained earnings.
Okay, so that money that we've been allocating every year for the past 10 or 15 years goes back to your separate fund.
That's correct.
so it hasn't been held so that we can do what we've been funding for all these years then?
Well, it's available for whatever the division sees fit. It's, the way to think about it is it's been returned into the savings account.
No, I understand that, but that bulk of money isn't there to say, okay, we can do them all. We can only do whatever's there for this budget.
Well, that's all that would be allocated specifically in that account in this budget. If the division wishes to do more and has exhausted that account, they can request a transfer and to move the money out of retained earnings and into the appropriate.
Okay, so how much money's in there now? I think it's annually spent like 25 grand or thereabouts.
I think we've done enough for about 30 polls.
It's 10 or 25. I do not recall off the top of my head.
And the ones that we have out there, are they gonna get repainted, or are you gonna take them out and replace them?
The plan is to take those out, replace them. The contractor then takes the old poles, resurfaces them, be it a powder coat or a painting process. We're currently exploring both options. It'll likely be powder coating. And then when they come back, they'll be swapped out.
Okay, thank you. And my only point is, the place that manufactures them in right North Branford, I went to the plant years ago. I don't know if there's, before it goes out to bid, potentially you can find out what other municipalities do, because there might be something that we can just paint them, because they look ridiculous. But at least, hopefully, this year, 13 years later, we're gonna finally do something. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions for the electric division? Okay, and any other questions for water or sewer? Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice evening. All right, so I'm gonna go through the departments again. Please raise your hand if you have a question. If there is no questions for your department, then you're dismissed. All right, we'll start with animal control. Board of Assessment Appeals. Board of Ethics. Building. Cafeteria. Capital Appropriations Reserve. Cap and non-recurring. Conservation Commission. Contingency. Debt service. Emergency management, civil preparedness. Employee insurance and other benefits. Engineering. Fire department, including EMS. Health. Human resources and risk management. Information technology. Inland wetlands. Insurance, property and casualty. Law. Library. Mayor. Planning and zoning. Probate. PUC. Registrar of Voters. 6-year capital. Town council. Town clerk. Veterans Center. Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay, so just to recap, here's the group. Second call for Board of Ed. Okay. All right, so these are the, everyone can leave except for the following. Contingency, EDC, Finance, Government Access TV, Information Tech, and that is it. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. Parks and Rec, Pension, Police, Public Works, and Social Services contributions.
Mr. Chairman, there are several nonprofits here. can the social services questions be delineated between, like if it's library, senior center?
Okay, so if you're here from a not-for-profit, well, there were no, if you're here from a not-for-profit, sit for a minute, I suppose, because if there's a social service question that you can answer, you're welcome to come to the mic. Engineering? Oh. Is someone still here from engineering? Oh, okay, all right, perfect. All right, I'm not sure if I called your name or not, but I guess there's questions. Does that sound about right? Okay. All right, so library's all set. You can leave if you're. Oh, okay. Let's start with social services. All right, Mayor, I'm not sure who's here on, oh.
So the social services, there's no department head. It's the various organizations that benefit from the contributions on that page.
Okay, I see. No, okay, so, Mr. Comerford, I think you had a question for social services. Do you want to, I think you were the only one. Does anyone else have questions for social services?
Is anybody coming up?
Well, who are you, to whom do you want to address the question?
There's 15 of them.
I'm very familiar with how it works.
All right, so Bill, so to whom is your question?
The way this thing is structured, and for the life of me, I couldn't understand it, nor could Mr. Turner, the former person that was under Youth and Social Services, where you have the 15 nonprofits. So, to be crystally clear, you had stated, Chairman, at a couple meetings ago that everybody's going to put their big boy pants on. We're going to send a letter out.
Okay.
I called the town clerk today to find out if the letter was sent out and whatever happened. Apparently, no letter was ever sent out because I wanted to get copies of the responses, but there wouldn't be any responses if no letter went out. And you guys were going to fine-tune everything and go over all of them, and we want to know all these things, but none of it ever happened. Not only one, but all 15.
So, okay, so this meeting, the purpose of this meeting is so that you can ask questions about the budget, right? So the council hasn't had any discussion about the budget at all. So you're welcome to ask a question if you have a question.
Well, I kind of wanted to find out what the results were from the letter that obviously never went out, so I could have some questions to ask, but if the letter never went out, I might have a question for every single one, but I don't know. I don't know what the responses were, and I don't want any type of redundancy. So I thought that the department head, which I don't know her name, would be able to answer all the questions because it falls under that topic. And that's not the case, is it?
Well, it's on a separate page of the budget book now.
I understand, but it's on the Youth and Social Service, is it not?
No, it's on its own page of the budget book. So if you have a question and the group is here, I'll be happy to have them answer the question.
One of the questions that I had is, I was led to believe by the town council that they wanted a true number as to what the actual cost to the taxpayer was. And this is only an example, like SCOW. I'm just using them as an example. They get the free use of the building, they get janitorial services, they get free heat, free air conditioning, free repairs, free snow plowing, all these free. So you led me as a taxpayer to believe we were going to get a collective number how much the freebies cost. I don't have that. So that's the answer I would like.
So I'm not going to have an answer tonight for how much all of it costs, and I'm not sure that we ever had this conversation. I think the council had expressed interest, individual councils had expressed interest in truing up some of these funds, but the council hasn't had any discussion on the budget at all at this point, except for the departments that we interviewed, but the council hasn't spoken amongst ourselves about the budget. So if you're looking for a greater accounting of the social services page, I think I would like that too, but we're just not there yet.
But this is my only bite of the apple. So I don't have any answers. So how is anybody supposed to be able to ask a question when the letter never went out? We don't know what the costs are.
Right, so again, the function of tonight's meeting is if you have a question, you can ask it, right? But this is not for you and I to debate this issue.
I did. How much does SCOW get for freebies?
I have no idea. I mean, I know they have real estate and et cetera, but I have no idea.
But we have no idea.
Correct.
But that's a responsible government that I have. They have no idea how much the freebies cost.
I do not.
It's pretty poor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for social services? Okay, that's it. Social services is dismissed. Thank you very much. All right, let's next move on to economic development, please.
I must just stand up here.
Mr. Crash, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Don Crouch, Economic Development Specialist.
Bill coming for Broadview Drive. The grant coordinator fall under your?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry then. I thought it did because before it was under Don Rowe.
Yeah, it's under program planning.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do we still pay Steve Knight as a ghostwriter in your budget?
There's money budgeted for the Wallingford magazine, which Steve writes articles.
Right, and he used to write under, from the desk of Joe. Is he still doing that under a different title?
Correct.
We have nobody that can do that can do it for free in EDC?
Well, right now, I mean, it's a department of like 1.5. So, Steve helps with those articles, and they're about $300 for the year.
Okay. You're the specialist, correct?
Correct.
Is that part-time?
Full-time.
How many hours is that?
35.
Okay. And do you need more help? Are you asking for more help?
Not this year.
So potentially next year?
Probably not.
Okay. My opinion is they need more people in the office that, they've got to be a driver for the town. Get whatever we can to get in to try to drive the revenue and fill up some of the buildings. Again, I apologize. I thought that the grant administrator was under this. What department is that under?
Program planning.
Okay, thanks so much. And again, I think it's understaffed. Thank you.
Any other questions for EDC? Sir?
Hi, my name is Daryl Stancuna. My question is, can you break down what ABC is?
Economic Development Commission?
So that's with an E.
Correct.
So not A is an alpha.
No.
Why is it why is it a different letter like that, not E?
It is E.
So it's not A, alpha.
No.
It's echo.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I think basically, how much money are you guys trying to plan to put away for your budget this year?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Like for each program that you have, can you tell me which ones you have?
We have a marketing promotional budget. It's around 30,000.
Okay, was that part of the 30,000 for marketing? Was that used with Mayor Cervoni on that email that he told the whole town about, that he sent to Mr. Comerford? On the bottom, it said we ranked like number 1 in the country for something.
It was best managed town, 2024. No, that was, there was no cost to the town.
There was no cost from that.
There was no cost from the town.
Would that have been, was that a free ride then?
Yes, there was no cost to the town.
But why would somebody set up something like that, a web page for free with no cost? Was there some kind of advertisement on there from them?
Well, it depends if you're talking about the website or the article.
Both.
They are supported, they're ad-funded supported entities. So they're private businesses that secure ads to support, whether it's a ad in a newspaper or, a magazine or the website.
And what about for restaurants in town?
Yeah, they'll take anybody's money.
So would the restaurants then have to pay for that?
Sure, we had no control over the revenue, and they charge whatever their ad rates were.
Okay, so basically you let them have an open door. The mayor does the free advertising for this company, and then the restaurants in town would have to pay this company that you're marketing with
No.
not getting paid.
No, the mayor didn't. I'm not going to speak for him, but no, he didn't have an ad.
All right, can I ask that question to the mayor then?
Well, so this is to discuss with the department head. So you're allowed to ask Mr. Crouch anything you want, but
Okay,
we're getting
because
a
he's
little bit off
not really answering it. He's put it on limbo about
Well, this
the
really isn't a
mayor.
budget question either, correct?
This is.
So you asked him what it costs. He said
How
the
can
cost
you
was
ask
zero.
me if this is a budget question? That's what we're all here for tonight, the budget question.
Correct. And so you're asking him about a free service that was paid for through advertising. So that has nothing to do with this upcoming budget. It was also provided for in the current fiscal year, right? So this is the last budget.
Right, we're asking about the last budget. We
No,
want to
we're
know
asking
for
about the
future.
budget that the mayor presented, that's the 25-26 fiscal year budget.
Yeah, the one that's going to be 20% on our taxes.
Correct.
So let me finish asking them the questions. So would the mayor have something to do on that decision?
The article was an interview from Business View magazine.
Right, but did the mayor tell you to just add them on there for business?
Could you repeat your question?
Did the mayor tell you to add them on there for business?
Mr. Chairman,
Mayor, please.
thank you. Business View reached out to us, reached out to Mr. Crouch. So they asked if we would participate in an interview that resulted in an article. We participated in an interview. That's all that happened.
All right, it's just a lot of buzz is going around the whole city about this, that's all. I mean, it was on the town council meeting, the mayor had not spoken for like 2 minutes, and basically everyone in the city of Wallingford was like, something's going on here. So some people wanted me to come up here tonight and ask those questions about this, because we're really wondering why the mayor was quiet for like 2 minutes never seen that. I've been in this town 55 years, never seen that in my whole life in here. So that's why we're trying to figure out what's going on with that.
Yeah, there was no purchase order, no payment, and I believe he was just looking up an email.
Okay. And then the other part of the departments that you handle?
Just economic development.
Economic development, and what else?
That'd be it.
The what?
Mr. Stankuda?
That's it.
Wait, your 3 minutes are up. Let's see if anyone else has questions for this department, please.
How come you let other people ask questions? I haven't been up here in like a year, and I've seen you, Mr. Chair, let people talk for like 10 minutes. Is it because it's me? I've seen you. We could go back on the recordings.
Mr.
You let
Stankuda.
people talk 10, 15 minutes without saying anything.
You asked me a question. Would you like an answer?
No. I'm trying to ask the question, one more question to him. I've been paying taxes before he even knew about this town.
Does anyone have a question? Anyone else have a question for this department?
No.
Kindly continue.
I told you, no one else. Everyone's afraid. You guys give this fear mongering to people, so that's why I'm up here. I tried telling you that. So can you please answer the question?
What's your question?
What other departments do you handle besides the marketing?
Oh, so not departments, but what other activities?
Yes.
Marketing, business outreach, business recruitment, business retention, business expansion.
Business expansion for other companies to come here, like we lost Bristol Myers?
Well, I wasn't working here. I wasn't here when Bristol Myers left, but yes, we work with the property owner to find people to go into Bristol Myers. So,
And is there going to be some kind of recourse on this to try to get the taxes down?
I don't know if I'd say recourse. I would say there's activity every day trying to fill vacant properties in town.
Okay, now include the sale of markets of the houses too?
No.
Okay, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See how easy that was?
Thank you, Mr. Crouch. Moving on to information technology.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Winters, the IT Director for the town of Wallingford. I'm happy to take any questions.
Bill Cummer for Broadview Drive. I'm just curious, this has been brought up almost quite a few times at the town council meetings. When is the public going to have access to internet here? For example, I don't have internet here, but yet I can't get my iPad to work in order to see the budget. I asked for a copy of the written budget that doesn't exist, so they tell me that I have to look online, so I come here, and I don't have that ability.
So you're asking about internet access for the public while you were in town hall?
Well, I'm right here right now.
Okay, that's coming soon. We had to redesign the network first. We also had to secure some of the existing network systems, and Wi-Fi is on the schedule for later this year.
But doesn't the town council have it right now?
The town council has a separate low-cost, low-budget Wi-Fi that they use so that they can just remote in if they have to miss a meeting. That's not something that the rest of the town employees use or the public uses.
So right now, if they wanted to look up the budget like I wanted to, they wouldn't have that ability then?
I'm not sure if they would or wouldn't. I know it's used occasionally if somebody from the town council can't attend a meeting, and I would assume they could at least get to Google or get to the internet from inside here to look things up.
And what do you think soon constitutes how long?
I would say before the end of the year. We're currently planning Wi-Fi access for this building. It'll have to go out to bid, and then I would say probably by the fall it should be in place here in Town Hall at least.
Okay, and I can't thank you enough for, I mean, you've got a big job to do. Is your department also, and I don't have the budget, obviously, I can only do so much here with not having access. Is that IT department being consulted in other departments, for example, Public Works or the Police Department or any other one, so there's not redundancy? When you finally build your mainframe and all these different things that they all talk.
Did you say consulted or?
Pardon me?
Did you say consulted?
Well, are you reaching out to other departments or entities of the town?
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, my apologies. So the departments that I take care of the IT for are the town hall departments and the public utilities, youth services, youth and social services, parks and rec, government TV, public works. I do not have any overview of police department, fire department, Board of Education, the library, and senior center, and I may be missing one or two more. But we do converse. The Board of Education has an IT director that I speak with very often. The police department has an IT manager that I speak with very often. So not only do we assist each other, but we look for ways to save money, to bundle our purchases together if possible, and in general, share the technology so that we can raise the technology level of all the departments in town, whether I oversee them or not. We realize that it's been a while since some money was spent on technology.
I don't know if there ever was. With your mainframe, is that in this building?
We don't have a mainframe. We have several servers that are located here in this building that are used by town departments here. We also have some services in the cloud, depending on what the application is.
So, and I know nothing about computers, but there's such a beast as a what, A400 or 200 or something?
An AS400, I believe those were decommissioned about 20 years ago. That's an IBM mainframe.
Right.
We use a different type of technology, which is servers on a local area network that individual PCs talk to.
No, I understand, because one of the things when they redid the police department, one of my concerns was keeping the room cool, because the little bit that I know about computers is overheating. And a lot of times when they do a new building and the police department wasn't, a lot of times they'll cool the floor and the air in order to keep that cool, and then would have backup systems. So I didn't know if there was a plan to have something of that magnitude in the future, and if that did take place, where it would be located.
The cooling we have now is adequate by far. So we've actually reduced the number of servers that we have in the server room, and that's lowered the temperature quite a bit. So we have wall unit air conditioners that function very well, and they keep the rooms cool. So there's no need, because of old mainframes, they did require a huge amount of cooling, but that's not the case any longer.
Right, and just to shift gears, and I appreciate it, it's kind of like the same thing with the data center. That's going to draw a ton of heat. But anyways, thank you very much for your time. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. I didn't have this question, but since you brought it up, you're the IT director for public utilities?
Yes.
So is it in the budget that we will have the ability to direct pay, from my checking account, send it over? Are you working on that? Is that in the budget for the public utilities instead of writing a check out to them?
It is.
And do you have an estimated time that might start?
We're in the planning stages on that, and we're going to carefully implement online payments using a new payment system that'll be a lot less expensive to the taxpayers, a lot more efficient, and give you the ability to track your bills and split multiple payments across both, all three: water, sewer, and electric, as well as tax department and a few other departments. So my guess is we'll start implementing that sometimes within the next 6 months. I think utilities are going to come a little bit later because it's a little more complicated. Water and sewer divisions bill at a different interval than the electric division does. We want to make sure we get it right. But it is on the way, and it's definitely in progress.
So that means if I wanted to go back and look at my last year bills for, say, a rental property or something, I'll be now able to go online and be able to see those? That's what you're saying you're going to hopefully be able to do?
Yes, sir. I think it's going to have 2 years of history that you can go back and look at by the time we get it up and running.
Perfect. And the bill pay will I be able to pay from my checking account or any account I have at a bank or anything like that and just send it over with no fees to the public utilities?
I believe the check fee would be 95 cents or $1.95. I think that's 95 if it's an electronic check, 95 cents. The fees range to, I think the max is $3.95 if you use a credit card, but it'll also be able to use checks. You can use ACH payments, credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and PayPal as well.
So Apple Pay, Google Pay, those will be free?
I believe there's a small charge for all of those.
So you're going to, and so even if I was to have it, say, from TD Bank, well, it's not Centertown, and just have it drawn over there, you're still going to charge a bank fee. It's not like if I want to pay my Visa bill online, I just go over and send them the money. There's no fee involved. You're still going to have a fee? The town's still going to have a fee?
The town itself won't have a fee, but the payment processor will have a small fee, as it does now online. You can pay some of your bills and your taxes online now, but the fees are exorbitant.
All right, so it's not going to be free then?
It won't be entirely free, but it'll be incredibly reduced. And you're always welcome to still come in and make payments in person if you choose. But we want to try and make it as accessible as we can to everybody, reduce the fees, and bring that convenience for people who want it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sir?
Jim Allen, Terrell Farms Way. I believe in the budget, there's about $1 million in spending for IT upgrades, which the town hasn't upgraded in a number of years. Think it's wonderful, right? But normally when you do upgrades, you talk about efficiency, right? So what we don't see in the budget is the savings that's going to come from that $1 million. Is that the IT director's job? Is that the council's job? Or is that the mayor's job to look at what offsets all this efficiency? Again, think it's wonderful to spend $1 million to bring the town into the 20th century, but there's got to be some offset to that, right? Because we're talking about a 19% property increase, which is quite frankly insane. So who does that?
Well, I think to be clear, we should understand that, the IT budget for the coming year is going to be just a little over $1 million. But a lot of that is money that was pulled from other departments. So for instance, each department used to buy its own computers, each used to buy its own software, and the funding for the 2 network administrators was split among town departments. That's all been pulled in and put under a central IT budget. So not all of that is new spending. A lot of that is spending that was going on year after year, but split up among many different departments.
So there should be savings in the other departments to offset the $1 million that went to IT then?
Yes, that's true, and there is. So no longer will departments have to spend their own money for buying PCs, for instance. That's included in the IT budget, and that's already been removed from their budgets. And there's more savings to come as well. We hope to get a handle on printers and copiers, which have been purchased by individual departments over the years. We're hoping to consolidate and centralize that as well. That'll bring the cost down quite a bit.
So is there that savings documented somewhere, what you think you're gonna save? It's instead of just pulling from 20 different departments that nobody can find. I mean, usually when you go to spend something, you have, here's what I'm spending, here's what I'm gonna save to pay for that. And I just don't see that. I see this spend, spend, spend.
Right. I mean, we are improving services, so there will be some increased costs, as we know. We're going to a lot of online services that improve efficiency, reduce the chance for error. So I think that's one of the ways right there that we're going to be saving money as a town. Also, as we look to improve some of the systems, such as at the utilities, where we can reduce the number of mails that get, billing mails that get printed and mailed out through the U.S. Postal Service, there's going to be a lot of savings there as well, too.
Again, I think it's wonderful to spend, but it would be nice to say, I'm gonna spend $1 million, but I'm gonna save $500,000 in all these other costs that you're talking about. It just doesn't seem to be very transparent.
I would say it's hard to put an exact dollar amount on it, but when you factor in the efficiency that is going to take place, because I've seen the lines here in the hallway at tax time, and things move very slowly. With new computer systems and new computers, that's going to move a lot faster for people. So we'll be able to improve services. The cost will be reduced by retiring a lot of the old servers that we have that are beyond end of life. And if we had to replace the hardware, as opposed to going to the cloud, it would be extremely expensive. So we're always looking at every system. Can we do it better today than they've been doing over the last 10 or 20 years?
Sure.
And in almost every case, there's going to be some savings because of that.
Okay, it would just be nice to, again, document that. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Anyone else for this department? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Winters.
Thank you.
Moving on, next we'll go to Park and Rec. Mr. Michaels, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yep. Kenny Michaels, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
Bill coming for Broadview Drive. I apologize if I don't have the sheets in front of me because I don't have the ability, as I stated before. And stop me anywhere where I'm wrong, Mr. Michaels. Picnic tables was one of your line items. I don't know what line item it was.
Not in this budget.
I thought it was.
No, that was last year.
Okay, I stand corrected. It said 12,320. We don't plan on putting any new picnic tables anywhere this upcoming budget?
We've done it for the last 3. We're pretty much up to speed where we need to be.
Pardon me?
We did it for the last 3 budget years, purchasing them and replenishing them in the park, so we're pretty much up to speed where we need to be.
Okay, so I drive by Wallace Park every day. There's not one picnic table there. Is there a plan for that?
For Wallace? No.
Okay, and any other parks that don't have them? For example, the basketball courts down at Doolittle, no picnic table, so we're not looking for any anytime soon.
No.
Okay. Again, I don't have your budget right in front of me. ADA compliance, is there a line item for getting all the parks or facilities, courts and so forth to be ADA compliant in this year's budget?
No, there's no need.
There's no need?
Not from what we've seen, no.
So the basketball, the tennis courts at Doolittle that are, you can't get there. They're not ADA compliant. There's no need to make them ADA compliant?
It's the same compliance that it's had from the original setup.
But they were redone. I thought when they were redone, you have to be ADA compliant.
I'll have to look into that for you.
And the new basketball courts, I just saw that one was done. Is the other one going to get done?
Done referring to what?
ADA compliant.
As in what measure?
I'm somewhat familiar with ADA compliance. You're supposed to have the ability with any type of handicap, be able to access all things. In this case, the basketball court that's within Doolittle Park that we spent $160,000 for is supposed to be handicap accessible. There's no sidewalk there, there's no ramp, there's no nothing. I just was curious as to if it's gonna get done, and obviously it's not in this budget.
By the looks of it, it doesn't appear to be.
Okay, and then the playground areas, because I think Counselor Fishbein had brought this up maybe last year. Again, Wallace Park, those playground areas, swing sets or whatever, they just have a ramp, but there's no accessibility for anybody that's handicapped. And again, there's nothing going to be happening with that either.
Looking at page 46 and 47, no.
Okay, it's pretty sad. Again, I apologize, I don't have the number in front of me. Is there anything in the budget to redo West, is that me?
That's
West Side Field?
Wait, that's the 3 minutes, Mr. Comerford. Go ahead, Mr. Michaels, answer the question, then we'll see if anyone else has a question for this department.
Go ahead, find out if anybody else is queued up.
What was it? Is there anything? Go ahead.
Is there any money in the budget to redo West Side Field?
Not in this budget.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a question for Parks and Rec? Mr. Allen?
Kenny, just a simple question, right? So really what we're talking about is revenue and cost. I know in years past, they used to charge non-residents a little more. You guys, the town has a wonderful Parks and Rec program, right? There's a lot of activities, there's a lot of kids that go that. I think that's fabulous, but obviously it's probably subsidized a bit by the town. I know years ago, non-residents used to be charged a higher rate than what residents, and I think that's gone away. And it even gets into a bigger subject of, you know, the elephant in the room or the elephant down the street, Choate, right? Choate people use it. Choate doesn't pay any taxes. So is that ever going to be looked at again, the non-residents versus residents?
We've had discussions in the pros and cons of having it and having the non-resident fee. As far as a financial revenue driver, it just really didn't make sense for us. I think the figure was somewhere around like $3,500 in additional revenue, charging a non-resident fee. And we just felt at the time, probably going back 6 years ago, that it just, there was no point to it for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Comerford?
Yeah, back to West Side Field. Is there anything in the budget to redo that? And you said no.
No.
Just a little tidbit of information. That whole field was redone. I think it was 2017-ish. It was stripped, all new soil brought in, irrigation to the tune of $150,000. From my money, your money, and if you go down there and look at it, it looks like it needs to be done again. But the sad thing is we already did it. We did it. It was a field of dreams. Now it's a nightmare. We already paid for it, but there's no accountability. Why did it die? Why do we have what we have? We paid for the best of the best, and we got it. But now you go out there, it's a field of dandelions. I spent 3 hours watching Public Works go out there. They couldn't even cut one dandelion while they spent half the day driving over with the lawnmower. Now fast forward, go to Pragnum Park. You got the same thing. Spent the same amount of money, or close to it, redid it all. We got the same result. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Michaels. We'll move on to engineering, please.
Allison Kapuscinski, Town Engineer.
Thank you. Mr. Comerford?
Yeah, Bill coming for Broadview Drive. Going back to the Doolittle basketball courts, has that been paid in full?
That's not part of this budget.
Okay, but we expensed some of that. Where did that money come from? ARPA or your budget?
Wait, so this is about the 25-26 budget.
Well, I compare it to last year's and then this year. So if it was paid last
Okay,
year,
so tie it into the 25-26 budget and you're fine.
well, if there's leftover money, then it's got to be shifted to this new budget, right? If we're sitting on, if a bill wasn't paid in full, that would carry over to the new year, right?
No.
Why?
Mr. Sen, if we had incurred an expense in the prior fiscal year, we would pay for it out of that fiscal year, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. I see on your thing, it says plotter. You're looking for a plotter, 10 grand?
That's correct.
And what's the matter with the one that we have?
We're out of our service contract, so we're looking to trade it in and re-up with a new service contract.
So because the service, as far as the ability to work, it works, it's the service contract that's up?
Correct.
And how much is the service contract?
It has to go out to bid.
So we don't know how much it costs.
No, it will go out to bid for the new fiscal year.
Okay, but the thing still functions properly. It's just a service contract.
That's correct. We're hoping to get a good trade-in value.
But we also can just get a service contract, right?
I don't think so. I think it wouldn't be competitive because it would be the company that provides the plotter that would have the service contract.
And what exactly does the plotter do?
It prints.
But it obviously, but it's just for what, like the basketball court diagram or something of that magnitude, A2 surveys?
You could print anything to it. We typically use it for full-size 24 by 36 plans.
Okay. So maybe you don't know this. Does Public Works have one of those too?
I don't know.
But it's potentially plausible that they do. But we'll ask them. Do we have any idea what the usage is on that?
Not off the top of my head, but I mean, people come in and use it from Town Clerk a lot. They'll go down to Town Clerk, get a map, come up for a copy.
So within that plotter, is there a mechanism that says, okay, this month we pumped out 30 copies or wherever it was, or we have no idea?
Maybe somewhere in the settings, I don't do that. I don't think that there's a reason for me to do that.
Okay. And I didn't see on your budget a sidewalk inspector. Is that true too?
I'm not asking for an increase of staffing. That's correct.
So this is another thing that I've been bringing up for decades also. We used to have a sidewalk inspector, and the sidewalk inspector used to inspect all the sidewalks, and we're in a much better state of the town back then. And I'll send you guys a job description because the sidewalk inspector inspected the sidewalks, never got in the condition that we have today, but they also inspected and oversaw all the construction projects for the town. And you know that I have a passion for the Doolittle Park basketball courts, and that same inspector would have been in charge of that. So we could just go to that one person and say, okay, where are we at with this? But we don't have that ability. So I'm begging you, I'm pleading to you guys, please hire a sidewalk inspector. Because it only makes sense, but you won't do it because I said it. And it makes sense, so let's not do it, right? We're looking at potentially.
Mr. Comfort, do you have a budget question? So I understand you're asking for a sidewalk inspector. Do you have any other budget questions?
To this, no, that's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Kapuscinski. Thank you. We're moving on to the police department.
Good evening, Chief John Ventura, Police Chief.
Good evening, Anthony DeMayo, Deputy Chief.
Good evening, Beth DeGallo, Executive Secretary.
Bill Comer for Broadview Drive. Thanks, guys. Last year I brought this up to Atlas One. Any idea where we're at? I know we had talked to me that, not that long ago, you might be looking at something new or.
So with Atlas One, we actually went so far as to speak to the company and also speak to some grant writers to try to partner with the Board of Education to go for a student violence protection grant. But after we constructed basically a draft of the grant, we were told that it didn't meet the requirements, so we couldn't access that funding. So we have to find another source of funding for that. So it's not a cheap project. We've spoken about it multiple times in the past. It's just a matter of prioritizing now, based on the amount of money that came in. There is another product that we're looking at for the agency and for neighboring businesses that we hope to partner with. We're working on that right now to try to see if we can do that and be cost effective with it.
And is that new one that you're referring to better than the Atlas one, or are you just worried about the cost of the Atlas
It's
one?
different. It serves a different purpose. As far as business owners and commercial business in town, it's far superior. For residential, I don't think it's as effective as Atlas One. It's a trade-off, but it would be substantially less in cost than what Atlas One would cost.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, was it that because we didn't have a grant writer or the ability to pursue that it became more complex? You guys are...
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off. It wasn't the complexity of the grant. It was just a matter of trying to mirror Board of Education, school system, the police department into one grant. So the grant was for a specific purpose, and we thought that we might be able to utilize that to purchase the equipment. But after we had grant writers that were independent of both agencies review it, and they said that it would not be sufficient to put forward, so we couldn't do it.
And when we talked about this before, the Atlas One wasn't huge money, it was like 50 grand or something, right?
Correct. I don't know what it would be now to do it, if their prices increased, but at the time, yes.
So that's another thing. I'm just reaching out to the town council. I'm begging you to give them the funds, the 50 grand a year for the Atlas One, because they need it. It does nothing but good for the community, and it helps them out. They're able to put geofences up and all different things when there's an issue or problem, whereas we don't have it. And I've been bringing this up probably, 3 years now? And it's sad that they don't have it, in my opinion. The other thing is that I brought up with Harley Davidsons, and I never see it on the budget. When are we going to start talking about being able to have somewhat of a motorcycle fleet to be able to free up potentially some of the Explorers? I don't know what you guys drive, Explorers or whatever they are. We talked about this, funeral services or other things that cost substantially less. Is that ever going to see, pen to paper?
So what I would have to say to that is that I don't know what the interest in the agency would be to have a motorcycle unit. So we have a bike unit right now. We're going to start pushing the bikes out soon. I've added to the canine program, so we're going to have 3 canines starting in the fall of this year. But as far as the appetite for someone to be a motorcycle unit person, I don't know what that would be. And like we had spoken about in the past, I think that once we get past the budget portion, we should sit down and talk about utilizing a supernumerary program, because those individuals would be more apt to use the bicycle, the motorcycle, than some of my current officers would be.
Right, but that discussion's still on hold, right? As far as a supernumerary, or as I suggested, potentially hiring back some retired police officers.
Correct, and that's a discussion that goes way beyond my level. I mean, it's a lot of complexities to that. To even begin that program, it's easier to do away with it than it is to bring it back. So I think that we would have to figure out what that would look like and how that would run. I mean, in the past, when that program was stood up, there was a whole chain of command that was respective to the supernumerary program. So I wasn't obviously here when that program was in place. So I think that it's something that I would have to look at and see how we can run that, and do I have the current staffing now to be able to oversee that program. So as much as I would like to have it, I don't know if it's just so simple as to say we can stand it back up.
Okay. As far as the police station and the tower goes, is that not you and it's Public Works?
As far as what, sir?
As far as the discussion as to that existing tower and the dilemma that we're in.
I think that as far as, so you're referring to the North Main Street Tower?
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
So I think that it would have to, that's a discussion as to what that building is going to be repurposed for. If it's a town building, then the tower, it's my understanding, should be able to stay there and function. If it's not a town building and it's sold to a private entity, I don't know how that would look, but something would have to then be done to either relocate the tower or to ensure that the area where we need to at the old police department is protected, as to ensure that there's security for the infrastructure for the radio system.
Okay. And I know I'm going to be over my time, but real quick. Been a number of people that came to the microphone and have a concern about the lights and the scheduling and the frequency on Route 5. Because we always get conflicting stories. Mashinsky says it's you, somebody says it's the state. Who exactly is that?
So it is the state, just to explain that light function. So what they ended up doing is they transitioned a lot of the older lights, which either on a timer or a trip at the stop bar, to a camera system. So basically the cameras that you see up in the air recognize that there's a line of traffic, coordinates with the lights. But the problem is that they all talk to each other, they work in concert with one another, but if you don't have a complement of lights that are on that system, you basically lose it at an older light. The state is trying to, across the state of Connecticut, implement that kind of system so we could do away with some of the delays. We have reached out. I know that the engineer had talked to, and the mayor had talked to DOT to try to work on that switch. The only issue would be is as you get further back into North Colony and then Hall and Quinnipiac, all the lights are not that type of light, so you lose it when you reach that light.
Because when I'm at the light and I'm heading up towards center from Quinnipiac, it seems like no matter how many times I'm there, people are running through the light.
So on that topic, and that's something that we could look at moving forward, but there is a few companies now with the new Public Act that was passed for red light cameras. That would be effective in addressing that, but that's a discussion for another day. But that's what the purpose of that is, to put into a major intersection, to control the intersection, to reduce people running through the light and ultimately reduce collisions.
I think I didn't. I just was curious as to what the answer was to that. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else for the police department? Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Next, we'll move on to Public Works Department, please.
Good evening, Rob Boltramitis, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Steve Palermo, Superintendent of Public Works.
Bill Comer from Broadview Drive. I'm going to start off with the thing that I've been beating this drum for a year on we already are probably in the queue for the vac truck, $600,000 vac truck. Yes.
Your question again, Bill?
No, I said we're probably in the queue for the $600,000 vac truck.
When you say in the queue, it's...
Meaning the purchase order probably went out, we're still going forward with the whole thing.
It was put out to bid recently. I understand bids are in. I've not gotten the official results back from purchasing. I understand that it is within the budget that we have.
Okay, and again, I'm pleading to you guys, don't spend the money, don't get it. Because I've been asking for this MS4 information for years. And it, in my opinion, just doesn't jive. Because I gave you guys the paperwork. I showed as far as how many went. In several years, the numbers were identical. Then 2 years later, they were identical. I asked recently to the mayor, and he said that he was going to get me stuff if the stuff existed, and they were going to probably try to update the DEP. So the most recent one, 2024, there was only 20 catch basins cleaned. So,
Bill, do you have a budget question?
well, yeah, because part of this is part of their budget because they pay for catch basin cleanouts. And when it went out to bid, it was $350 or $375. So if you do the math based upon this information, it's still cheaper. It's still cheaper to go out to bid. But as the other gentleman had talked about going to a computer system, we would be able to understand efficiencies and where the waste is. Do we have that ability, Mr. Boltramitis?
I'm listening to you, Bill, but the ability to do which thing?
To understand where we're wasting time, energy, in any type of efficiency study through Public Works.
I mean, we're always trying to be more efficient at what we do. I do want to, first, I want to remind you and the council about the vac truck and the budgeting for it. And you and I, we have great discussions, we truly do. I mean,
Sure.
and you know I always call you back. I answer your texts, your emails. We have great discussions. You and I agree to disagree on the vac truck. The DPW identified it as a need to replace our 24-year-old vac truck years ago. We brought it to the council. It was budgeted, it was approved in 23-24. And then we asked them to carry the money over to 24-25. We had about an hour and a half discussion here, and they voted to carry that money over. So The money for the vac truck is there. I believe the need is there. It is not a 25, 26 item, with the exception of course, we still have to pay to dispose of any catch basin cleanings that we get. So, that is a cost that's budgeted in 25, 26.
But also in that 1 hour discussion, you had said that you're going to have 2 guys on it. And it's going to be pretty much running pretty regularly. But on your budget now that you got in front of you, you said you're fully staffed.
Almost.
Well, no, it said 43 and that you were fully staffed, I thought, in your letter to the mayor.
No, I think it recognized that there were 2 or 3 positions short of 48 at this point. But we are as well staffed as we've been in the 5 years that I've been director.
So you still, in your budget, this upcoming budget, you're still going to have 2 guys on the new vac truck?
That's the intention. It's certainly a 2-man operation.
And what you indicated to me with your email today was that this upcoming one would be the same thing. We'd be cleaning 24, 2 a month with the new vac truck.
No, I think that's what we've done historically based on an average and based on an estimate. We need to ramp that up. We need to clean more.
But again, going back to the MS4s, it doesn't jive because that's not what the history showed. You said that you inspected 1,000 and we never did. I just for simplicity, I got the stuff from Simsbury. They did 1,600 each year. We do 20. It doesn't mesh. Anyways, the roads. I believe at the town council hearing, and I don't know if it was the administration or yourself, there's no list of roads that we're doing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Comer. Does anyone else have a question for Public Works? All right, continue.
Thank you. Do we have a list of the roads that we're taking on this year?
Yeah, so, we have and I'll call it a list of roads that we're doing this spring, but that's already budgeted money. And we have roads that we know that we would like to do with the money we're requesting in the 25-26 budget, and that would start in the fall and roll over to the spring. We've identified some roads, but I think there's also some flexibility to that. As you know, I'm sure you read my letter to the mayor that transmitted our budget request. We are presently in a study of looking at our 213 miles of roads to evaluate them and help develop a priority list on what to attack first. So I expect to get that report, probably a draft this spring, finalized this summer, and that's what we're going to use as a roadmap going forward to help us select the roads for the program.
Right, but in your budget, I think it says $1 million for road.
I think it's 1.2 actually in the cap and non.
Okay, 1.2, but we don't know what roads that 1.2 is going for, I guess what I'm asking.
I think the final list, if you will come out of that study this summer.
So we're waiting for the study. So if the study never happened, we wouldn't have any idea.
Well, I could promise you that, if we receive the $1.2 million in the cap non, it's going to get spent on roads in the town of Wallingford that drastically need it. I think we can all agree with that. There's going to be no money left on the table.
And it doesn't go that far. That's the point.
It doesn't go as far as it used to. We're paying about $116 a ton for asphalt in place. I think when I came here from engineering, again, 5.5 years ago, that number was $65 or $70 a ton. It's gone up incredibly. So the same $1 million or so that Public Works gets to do roads every year, you're covering less and less. So the other thing that's going to come out of this pavement study that I talked about is looking at alternative treatments for the preservation of pavement. Mills and paves that we typically do and have done for 20, 25 years in this town, at $23 a square yard, you're not tackling a big percentage of our 213 miles. We need to start looking at crack sealing. We need to start looking at chip seals and other techniques such as they're called cape seals with like a micro layer of asphalt. And while you may not get the same longevity that you would out of a mill and pave, for 50% or 25% of the money, you can extend the life of the road some 8 or 10 years. And that's what we need to start doing.
No, I totally agree. I just think that our roads are beyond repair at this point because they've been neglected for such a long time. We've never spent the money that we should have. I asked the director of Park and Rec before about the West Side Field. Is there any reason, does it fall under you guys, or does it fall under him?
We administer the contract. We have a vendor come in that does our application, so our pesticides, our fertilizers, et cetera. In my opinion, I don't think in the last 2 years we got the product that we were paying for. We have a new vendor who started last fall. I have the utmost confidence in them, and ironically, I asked them to come in. I'm meeting with them Thursday. I want them to tell us what we need to do at some of these fields. Now, I know last year, and this happened at my house, for some reason there was a big crabgrass growth and it died off. It left bare spots. It's the same thing in my front lawn, and we have that in a lot of our parks. So I'm going to be looking at recommendations from this vendor on how we correct that. And it's probably going to take a couple seasons to see real drastic improvements.
But the point is, we spent $150,000, now we have nothing, there's no grass, there's nothing. It's not my opinion, it's not the company that put anything down. I truly don't fault Public Works, because the guys from Public Works could be putting in a catch basin one day. They could be snow plowing the next day. They could be doing this and that. They don't know anything for the most part for sports turf and sports turf maintenance. Because I asked every department head, give me your pH samples. They don't even have anything. That's the point. At some point, we got to maintain what we have. And that's why we've also been saying with Park and Rec, they ought to have their own crew that specializes in it. It would alleviate pressure from these guys that I just couldn't believe that they were cutting dandelions that they couldn't even cut, which was embarrassing to know that we already spent $150,000 and it looks like we didn't do anything to it. The police station tower.
Mr. Comfort, before you go on, can you yield to Ms. Gross and let her?
Yeah, sure, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Debbie Gross, Long Hill Road. Regarding the paving of roads, is that done by the contractor or the town?
Most of the final finish work, so like your milling and pavings, are done by a vendor. We prep the roads, we inspect the drainage, we replace the catch basin tops, and prep it, but we look for that expertise of a vendor to come in that does that every day and does the milling and the paving.
Okay, thanks. And one other quick question. Regarding which roads are going to be paved, if you see a road or roads that are in what we feel could be done and been, long overdue, and is there a process where we can bring it up to your attention for you to review
absolutely.
it?
I get letters all the time, and I obviously respond to letters all the time. We're out there. We plow the roads in the winter. We know it's coming apart. We've got a lot of catch-up work to do.
No, I know.
We know that.
I know that.
But what I can tell you is that all 213 miles get a fair shake every year as we're selecting how to spend the money that we get to fix roads. And a lot of factors go into it. I mean, we like to, Stephen and I we want to do some on the east side, some on the west side, some downtown. We want to do thoroughfares, but we want to do cul-de-sacs as well. So we really try to, incorporate all that. And, and again, I mentioned that road study that's being done, that pavement evaluation study. I hope that, the end result is giving us I keep using that term, that roadmap, but going forward to help us, select.
So we can either call or write and tell you about a road? Because there are a couple of cul-de-sacs that I know aren't a priority, but it's been, I can't tell you when they've been paved in the last 20 years, and they're in dire need of being paved and becoming a little bit of a hazard. So I just thought I'd ask the process, just so we can try to provide input. I know that's probably not when a main thoroughfare is going to be more of a priority. I get that.
No, but like I said, we do try to mix some cul-de-sacs in there, in the program as well. And, maybe you should put the timer on for me, because I'm about to get long-winded on quality of pavement, because it is not what it used to be. And you mentioned a road that's 20 years. I have people call me, it's like, I've lived here 35, 40 years. My road's never been paved. They're like, you have a good product.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just
not
saying,
the
I
same.
do know of one cul-de-sac that is in dire need, and I say 20 years, but it's probably like 30, maybe longer, and it's really, really chewed up, and when you try to walk on it, it's, But anyway, I just
definitely
wanted to know what
bring
the
it-
process was.
No, bring it to our attention, and it'll get evaluated alongside everything else and prioritized.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, Carol Forte, 53 Parker Street. I was wondering if you could tell me, what is the road work that's being done on Route 68 in front of Fritz School?
Being a state
The nature of
highway,
the nature of the work.
yeah, it's not a town project.
Okay.
Because it is a state highway. Normally, I know what's going on a state highway. I don't in that case, in front of Fritz School.
They seem to be doing a lot of digging it up every day. They got cones and making it a one-lane road part of the time. And at the end of, I would say, the school day, they're taking a bulldozer and filling it up, back up and closing it, so it's useful.
In recent months and years, that area has seen a lot of utility gas work specifically, but I don't know that for certain.
Yeah, I didn't see any names on any of the trucks, so I thought maybe it was a town project, not
It is-
gas
it is-
line or,
It's not a DPW project.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bill coming from Broadview Drive. Yeah, the police station tower, is that in your budget, or where are we at with that?
There is nothing specifically in the budget other than for maintenance of buildings and grounds in general, that line item. That's slightly increased because, as you know, DPW has taken over the maintenance of that building, so it's just to cover us if if an HVAC unit goes down or that type of thing. But there's nothing in our budget for 25-26 that that would tell you what the town's plan is for that building in 25-26.
And what about the railroad station?
As far as
the budget goes, is there anything budgeted for that?
Not specifically in the DPW budget. We are pursuing a grant through program planning or the grants administrator to do an exterior renovation project. It's something that would have to be brought forth before the council again. But it's not a department budgeted item in 25-26.
So with this last assessment, there's nothing in your budget that addresses some of the things that were identified.
Correct. So the plan is, to get together with the administration and develop a list of priorities for the next immediate years and then years beyond that, and basically come back to the town council for potentially a bonding package to address, anything that came out of the facility condition assessments is what you're referring to. But any improvement like that, as you know, you're going to get a 20, 50-year life cycle out of it. I don't think it would have been fair to budget in 1 year at DPW. I think it is better as a bonded expense, and that's how we'll handle it.
I only have one comment to the council again. If it was me, I would pump the brakes on that vac truck still. It seems to me as a taxpayer, we would get more life and mileage out of a crack filling apparatus, whether it's a trailer or a truck, because no matter where you drive, you see all the cracks. And I'm sure Mr. Bolster-Myers can tell you, water is your worst enemy. So every time that water goes into that crack, and especially in the wintertime, it only undermines if it does have process or your substrate. So by not doing it, which we haven't done, it only gets worse, and that $600,000 could be used and utilized much better to purchase something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Moving on to Youth and Social Services. Good evening. Ms. Ms. Miranda, if you could just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, Mandy Miranda, Director, Youth and Social Services.
Yeah, Bill Comerford. Listen, I sincerely apologize if you guys sat there this whole time because I wanted to have questions about the nonprofits, and it fell under your name, your title, your domain, whatever you want to call it. I don't know why. I wish they would change that, but it would make sense to change it, so we're not going to. But last year when you were here, you were looking for, I think they axed one of your people, right? For an employee. Didn't they take one off?
That may have been a couple of years ago.
Was it?
3 years, maybe?
Since that time, you've been fully staffed?
Yes, we've increased our staffing numbers, yes.
And do you guys ever look for any kind of grants or anything?
We do when we can, and that's something that we're actually looking forward to be doing moving forward, even more so.
And you use our grant coordinator for that?
We have, yes, actually.
And they search out grants for you, or you have to
Mm-hmm.
find them?
Yes, so we'll explain what we need or what we're looking for, what area, and then she assists in locating grants.
Okay, and again, I apologize for you guys sitting here. I was hopeful that we would have the nonprofits in front of us. Thank you.
Anyone else for this, for Youth and Social Services? All right, thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Moving on to program planning. Any questions for program planning?
Bill Comer for Broadview Drive. Grant writer. Again, I bring this up every year. We only have one, and I don't know that they're a grant writer. They're on the title grant coordinator.
We have a full-time grant coordinator, grant writer. Grant coordinators are not subject matter experts. They are familiar with the process. They educate themselves as to what components go into the application, and then they rely on the department head for the subject matter expertise.
Okay, so that one person does all the departments in the town?
She does avail herself to all the department heads. She is both reactive and proactive. She certainly advises us of opportunities that we then distribute to the various town departments that might benefit from them. And also, she does coordinate with department heads. There's a ready example that comes to mind is that she worked with the IT director for an IT infrastructure improvement grant, and it was a very successful result. I think we got a multiplier more than we had anticipated getting from the grant application. I don't have the exact number.
Do you have an idea what our closure ratio is?
Not off the top of my head, but that can be determined.
And again, I've been bringing this up. There's so many missed opportunities for grants. We have one person that has to do all these departments. Well, you just heard the police department. They have to fill out themselves. You've got different ones like Youth and Social Services. How can we be trying to get grants when we only have one person, but yet this is like our fifth time of a bite at the apple for the historic railroad station? We got denied every single time. I mean, it's kind of like insanity. So aren't our resources being better utilized by either having more, probably even a couple more? Some of them even get paid by a percentage of the revenue that they generate. I don't know, but this might be something that we look into, because I think we're leaving too many things on the table by just having one person. Is that person full-time, Mayor? Mayor, is that person full-time?
Yes, she is.
So even if we had one or two, it would just make sense. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but also look into potentially finding out if we pay them by percentage of the grant received. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gross, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Appreciate it.
not have a question, but I have one now. Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. Are we still a member of CCM?
Yes, we are.
So don't they advise you on when there's federal, state, private foundation grants that are available?
Quite regularly.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was hoping you would say that you're a member of CCM. So there's an avenue that hopefully you're still pursuing grants. But I do sort of agree that you should have a full-time grant writer. That's a experienced grant writer, because we have hundreds of millions. We're such a large town now that you could use somebody like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to, we'll move on to the, I think the rest of the, government TV. I'm sorry, that's the only department that we haven't called yet. Outside of finance and the mayor's office. Yeah, that's all I finance. Good evening. If you could just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Susan Schott.
Tom
GovTV.
Caneschi, Supervisor, GovTV.
Bill coming from Broadview Drive. I see on their budget, you're looking for a full-time person, right?
The manager, yeah.
Manager. And we've never had one before, right?
It's been about 4 years.
4.
Yes,
Was that
sir.
what Scott Hanley used to do?
Yeah.
Okay, but how many part-time people is on your budget?
I believe there's 5 now.
Well, in the budget, there's 7, but
They're not all filled.
they're not all filled, and our part-timers work on average 11 hours a week, if that.
Okay, and do we know exactly what the new manager is going to do as far as the new role that we're creating in the budget is?
I would guess that that's a question for Mr. Hutt. I don't know what the criteria is for that job.
Okay, okay.
I mean, he's going to be doing an awful lot. He's going to be doing what I'm doing now, plus a lot of administrative stuff.
Administrative. I don't want to hold you there because obviously there must be a
If
job.
I may, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor, please.
So some of the obligations of the manager include PURA reporting, managing the assets of the department, coming up with service schedules, handling the scheduling, looking for grant opportunities to manage the assets of the department. You know, currently, Mr. Caneschi is quite generous with his time, probably just based upon the performance I've seen, probably does well in excess of what we can pay him as a part-timer, and often works enough hours that it puts us kind of in danger of him not being considered a part-timer. Mr. Caneschi looks at this as a retirement employment, and he's not looking for a full-time job right now. So the department would benefit from the attention of somebody in that position full-time. And it's certainly something that our observation is people are looking for more information, and we're here to provide them more information about the government.
So I guess my thing would be is, if we get the manager, are we going to reduce, because through efficiency, any of the part-time people, or we need that as well? We need the manager, because right now we haven't had one in 4 years, and we've got more things going on than before. And then I'm also questioning, if we do get this manager, is everything going to be televised, like PUC, which I beg for that to be televised, and I have to videotape it myself. Is that going to be part of this new era that we're going into with the new manager?
So the manager would examine the utilization of the current employees and look to manage their schedules more efficiently. You know, right now there are probably 3 to 4 employees who show up at almost every event. And we'd certainly like to spread the work around among the part-time employees. Again, we don't want to run into a situation where a part-time employee might be considered a full-time employee.
My only observation is we've been going 4 years, and I commend Mr. Caneschi for all that he does. But do we really need that? Or is that money better used and utilized for the sidewalk inspector? I'd rather use my tax money for the sidewalk inspector than government TV, which has been working great already. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for this department? All right, thank you very much. right, moving on to the mayor's office. Questions for the mayor?
Tashita Roberts from Center Street. My question to the mayor is, there is a proposed increase of the 19% taxes for residents or residential properties. Is there a way that you could do a gradual increase so that we don't hurt the residents or the citizens of this town?
So this budget is the unfortunate result of a perfect storm and unintended consequences from legislation. Two things happened. We were on schedule to do revaluation in 2025. The legislature decided to regionalize revaluation, so we instead revalued a year early. The other thing that happened was statutorily they changed the scheme of how motor vehicles are valued, which resulted in a significant reduction in motor vehicle tax. Very significant. I mean, we don't have a problem that a town like Greenwich has where, you know, their $1.2 million vehicles are now being assessed at $200,000, but that had a significant impact. So we saw a significant reduction in motor vehicle tax. Commercial property and personal property personal property was flat. Commercial industrial property appraised nowhere near as high as residential property did, and the average residential property went up by 40%. So because of the skewing of the grand list, what is actually a 5.92% increase in spending, that's all the budget is going up. The impact of the grand list is to shift that. When we do our budget, when we look at our grand list and set the mill rate, we're following a statutory procedure. The Connecticut statutes empower municipalities to tax, to run the organization, but we have to follow the statutes. I'm going to be participating in a meeting with the governor in a week or so. We're going to see what we can do to stave off the impact. But what's important to acknowledge is that the impact of revaluation, even if we had not increased spending at all over the present year budget, that would have still resulted in a significant increase in home property taxes. It's an unfortunate, unintended consequence of the timing of some changes in the law.
And can you just tell me what the statutory percentage is? I know you said that it's based on what legislation is. Can you tell me that amount?
So in terms of appraisal, what changed with motor vehicle tax is that motor vehicles were taxed on NADA fair market value. That created a problem during COVID when the value of used cars shot up. And so the legislature reacted to that. And now motor vehicles are valued by taking manufacturer's suggested retail price, so what was paid for the car when it was new, and then depreciating it annually. So I think the first year is 10%, and then it goes down 5% a year until it's down to $500. So that's significantly, previously if you had a car that was exotic and collectible and would trade on the open market for, $1 million, you could consider that. Well, now that's gone. I remember after the COVID impact on the used car market, somebody who had paid $19,000 for a Honda Civic could be looking at an appraisal of $25,000 and experience an increase in that personal property tax bill. So that was where the percentage shifted. But why we are where we are this budget year is because we were forced to do revaluation of real estate a year early. So in our market, I was looking at data that was generated by, was that OPM, Jim? Where we got the assessment data? Yes. So the appraisal of real estate is reflective of what the market has done over the past 4 years. So that's how this all ended up where it is. We did not raise our budget by 19%. We've raised it by 5.92%. And the skew occurred because of the timing of revaluation.
And is there anything you could do to possibly not raise it 5.9%, whereas you could raise it maybe 2%, just to give the taxpayers some time to get to that level? Wouldn't you do like a drastic hit in January, and now you're doing another drastic one shortly thereafter? It negatively affects the people that stay in this community.
I appreciate that. That's certainly not anything we're interested in doing in terms of putting people on their heels. This budget doesn't have a lot of extra in it. You just heard a conversation of about the manager of government television. That's an $85,000 hit. In order to implement the reduction that you talked about, you're looking at about a $6 million hit. And this budget is largely negotiated wage increases. The only way you save money there is by cutting staff. There's a third of it is about the 3.8% increase in the Board of Education budget. My perception of their budget is that it was very thin. And the rest of it is the cost of operating government. It's insurance costs. It's funding the pension. And it's keeping up with operations the way they are. Going into the budget that was presented, we looked to every department to significantly cut capital, replacement of vehicles, replacement of equipment. Everybody lost something they were asking for. So we did go into this budget looking for efficiencies to get down to 2%. You can't get there by eliminating capital. You have to eliminate jobs. And, what we're trying to do in town is maintain the workforce so that we can keep up with all the work that people want done. I heard a lot tonight about work that needs to get done. Well, you can't do that without bodies to do the work.
And my last question is, you indicated that, you're trying to fund the pension. New employees that come to work for Wallingford, do you think that maybe we should put into place a concept where maybe they don't get a full pension, where half is an IRA or half is something else that they can invest in so that we can save on the back end?
So about 6-7 years ago, the town went from a defined benefit plan, which is typically what people think of when they're working and earning a pension. After you've done so many years of service at such a rate of pay, you're expected to collect a defined amount. 6-7 years ago, we switched from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan, where the employee, it somewhat resembles in the private sector what's a 401k with a smaller employer match. I'm trying to remember that I think you contribute, is it 5 or 6% a year?
It's called a cash balance plan.
So it's largely employee contribution funded with a small match from the town. The benefit to the employees, if you're a short timer, you get to, when you move out of employment with the town, you get to take your cash contributions with you. You lose the town's contribution. But if you get to a point where that vests, then you get to sit on that until you start to collect. So we have made efforts, that for people looking for jobs with a defined benefit plan, we are not offering that to new hires here, and we haven't been for, like I said, 6 or 7 years.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Dombeck, Walnut Lane. Curious, is there any other alternatives to raising revenue in lieu of actually increasing our taxes?
I'm sorry, Ms. Dombeck, could you speak to the microphone, please? They're not picking up on the TV.
Just seeking possible alternatives in lieu of the tax increase, perhaps by maybe giving businesses some tax breaks in the sense that we could encourage them to come to our town, because as you drive down Center Street and go around the corner to Colony, there's still a lot of vacant businesses that would actually help locally. We can utilize the back roads out of Barnes Roads that could potentially also bring in potential businesses. I know that Mayor Dickinson was against the medical marijuana dispensaries, but other towns have been using that, and the taxes that they're generating from that, not in town, not near any schools, not near any of the medical facilities, but simply putting it out more towards the industrial portion of the town, so we can get the benefit of those taxes.
We do have a full-time economic development specialist. He was here speaking tonight. We have a vibrant economic development commission. We have presented to the town council several incentives to bring more businesses into town. We're aware of vacancies on Barnes Road. We've created incentives to address those. We have downtown incentives. There's even an electric division incentive for downtown businesses. So we have incentives. We're constantly looking at more. We have an incentive housing overlay zone that comes with incentives. I think if you invest $1 million of new product in that zone, you can get a significant contribution towards putting in the increase in electrical and utility infrastructure that results from that. So we're always looking for incentives, and yes, increasing the commercial side of the grand list would certainly reduce the burden on residential taxpayers.
Right, because there's, excuse me, there's significant, that building by Rite Aid behind those restaurant row, I think it might have been Silversmith, something back there. That's been vacant for years. I lived in this town for 26 years. It's been vacant the entire time I'm here. There's vacant buildings down by the Silversmith, vacant buildings out the MERS on Route 68. All those are vacant and they're not generating any revenue. So this is getting slid over to the residential side. And I think it's more important to try to get our town to be up and blooming than it would be to continue to tax its residents. And then I suppose this is my ignorance because I actually don't know the answer to this question, but Schott, I drive by Schott. Schott abuts my property in the back. Every time you go by there, there's a new building. They have a plethora of funds. Why couldn't we tax them at a 1% rate or a 0.5% rate, which would improve our taxes significantly because they put $15, $20 million buildings up, it seems like every year. Or they don't even renovate, or when they renovate the buildings, they also put $25 million into them. So why can't we tax Schott?
Because the statutes don't allow us to. There's a bill in the legislature that contemplates that, but it would it would require a state law change.
Is that something we can consider? Because Schott is actually getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's being considered in the legislature right now.
Okay, because you can't even drive over that area without it being a major problem. I had another question. I can't recall what it was. Might not have been that important, I guess. Just to figure out ways that we can find different alternatives to revenue because there is a significant amount of buildings that are empty. If you go to, say, West Hartford, I know Wallingford's not West Hartford, but it's booming. All the businesses there are booming, and the town gets a big, they get the businesses, they get the restaurants, they get things to do, and it makes it a better town overall. I don't like driving down these streets and seeing all these empty buildings. It's just kind of an eyesore, pretty much.
None of us do.
Maybe we could consider something to figure that out because, again, it's ongoing. That one building has literally been there for 25 plus years empty. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
You said it's behind Rite Aid?
So if you're on Rite Aid and Route 5 is going north, there's that side road that goes behind Dad's Diner and it used to be...
Is it the old eyelet factory? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know because I've been here that long, but not long enough to know what that building was.
The eyelet factory isn't being used as an eyelet factory. It's being used as a staging facility for freight. There are several freight companies who rent. There's a master lease, and there's freight that's hauled in and out of there on a regular basis. I think for a while, Toyota of Wallingford was parking excess inventory there.
I only see fences up, so I don't know if we're talking about the same building, but it looks like it's completely fenced off. Every time I go by there, and I was like, why aren't we using that building, and what's going on with it?
And it takes up what would be like a whole block. Is that the one?
That,
yeah, no, that's... If you're there at the right time of day, there are trucks coming in and out of that.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Gross?
Debbie Gross, Long Hill Road. Wasn't sure whether this would be under the finance area or under the mayor. But since the topic has been brought up, I guess I'll ask the questions now regarding, at the last council meeting, I took a look at the shift in the property tax, and yes, the 5.92 or 94% represents the $8 million increase in the property tax budget, and the residential component of it is basically settling about 15 million of that. And then the rest of the categories pretty much decrease, including the motor vehicle regarding the new statutes, and the personal property taxes, which is your furniture, fixtures, and equipment in the industrial end of it and the commercial end of it. So my question at the last council meeting was, is it possible, I know we can't change the assessment percentage, that 70%, because that's statute, but my question was, can we apply a different mill rate to each one of the categories to try to shift some of the burden from the residential component to the other areas of the property tax budget? And I don't know if you were able to find out if we could or not.
So, Mayor, I did speak to the law department about that, and I did some Googling first. So Connecticut, certain states do allow split tax bills, the state of Connecticut does not. So you can't apply a different tax rate. So you could have an incentive program for businesses, say, to provide incentives, to lower taxes, but there isn't the opportunity to charge a differential rate depending on the type of structure.
I looked in the statutes and I kind of saw that there, at the state, there was a bill at certain points in 2019, and it didn't go through for some reason. I know you said you were going to be talking to the governor, Mayor. I don't know if that's something we could bring forward to ask. I mean, it just to help saddle. I mean, I just took a quick look at moderate homes in Wallingford, like 1,000 square feet to maybe 1,300 square feet, and their tax bills are going to go up anywhere between $900 to $1,300 a year.
So the governor can't change the law by himself. We would hope that he would use some influence on the legislature if possible. We would also be looking for meeting him with several other municipal CEOs. Increases in education funding. Education's been flat funded for 7 years, and the cost of education has not stayed flat. The cost of nothing has stayed flat.
I realize that. I mean, it's not an easy thing to juggle, but it's just anything that can be done to get to something that's more palatable, because it's not going to help the residents of the town, and wanting the value of what we're getting in the town. My other question, and if it's not appropriate at this time, just let me know. It was regarding the pilot program. It's all on the revenue side. Ashler Village on the pilot program. Can someone tell me the number of homes or establishments that are in that calculation and how it's calculated actually?
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. So will you get back to me directly? Do I need to contact you or?
Call the finance office tomorrow. I'll
Okay.
get your number and I'll get back to you.
Okay, great, thank you. And in the budget, there's a line item with all zeros under pilots, colleges, and hospitals. The other ladies mentioned.
The state used to
No.
segregate what the pilot money was, and then they consolidated it all. They just tell us, we have no idea what properties they're talking about, but there's another line item that increased when that went to zero.
So that's money from the state.
That's money from the state.
So my question is regarding other towns have hospitals, other not-for-profit, made huge not-for-profits, colleges and schools and such, that like New Haven, Yale University, I believe, gives $23 million to the city of New Haven, and Yale New Haven Health System also gives a significant sum of money, and so on and so on. Being that, and I know these ladies brought it up as well, being that the taxes are going up so much, maybe we can look at, can I finish? So I just, went to our tax records, and I looked at just Masonic. And I don't know if I pulled all of them down, but I pulled about 136 entries. And I don't know if the appraised values are up to date regarding those properties, but Schott has about $3 million worth of properties. That's off of our tax rolls. So applying the new tax rate to that and the 70% assessment, that's over $5 million just with Schott alone. I looked at also the number of houses that are being taken off the market because they purchased them. There are around 85 homes in the Elm Street, Main Street area. There are 22 homes on North Elm. There's 11 homes on Hill House. There are 18 homes on North Main Street, 14 on Rosemary Lane. And Curtis Street, there's 8, 4 on Christian that I could see, and 5 on Beaumont. So I guess my point is we're being stretched, and the residents of the town are being stretched significantly. Could we look at a pilot program and work with the Masonic? Because I don't know what Ashler Village pays a very small pilot. So could we please start looking at, maybe start a committee that could look at these things to see if they can contribute, because we do provide them with a lot of services. And I don't remember, I think it was our emergency management director that said the number of calls that they provide to Masonic is a lot. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, of course we should, but I'm also thinking that maybe the time has come where they could contribute through a pilot program that would help defray some of the taxes. Is that something that the town could look at? Or the council could look at?
I think that the Masonic Care pilot is part of the Ashler Village pilot, and that resulted from there was litigation, and the resolution of the litigation was that pilot agreement. So we'd have to see what we can do with the parameters of that agreement.
So was that agreement just for that Ashler Village component, which is the number of homes? I'm not sure what establishments they are versus the whole Masonic establishment, meaning, they have the nursing homes, they have all the other areas. It isn't just a small Ashler Village piece of it, it's the whole Masonic complex. And that's, they also have, personal, furniture and fixtures and equipment that in their buildings as well. I mean, like I said, I think the time has come possibly that the residents can't saddle this all the time. And if we look at the future, we all know that there are a lot of things that need to be done and upgraded in this town. We can all agree to that. And we have to fund it. And if our property taxes are going up $1,000 at least a year, what's going to happen when you start instituting all these other things that need to be done in the town? So I really would hope that everyone would please, I'm begging you, to look at those things. I mean, every little bit helps, so if you could, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Comerford, Broadview Drive. Ms. Gross was spot on with her comments, and I can't commend her more than what she had said. I read an article not that long ago about Southington, and Southington was solicited by a company that audits businesses, and then they get the percentage of whatever they were able to recoup as their fee. Mayor, when was the last time, maybe you can answer this, any of these businesses or entities were audited by the I guess it's the comptroller's office?
Their personal property audits are done every year.
So for businesses they are?
Yes.
Because when I talked to Mr. Coons, who is the new assessor, I went through the whole thing with Schott. Schott's file is like 8 inches thick, and they had to get permission from the law department to actually let me see it. And I was astounded by how many times that they fight for every little nickel. I was kind of like, wow, in my opinion, they're really not as benevolent as I thought, because they're fighting over every little thing. Like Ms. Gross had said, all the houses came off and so forth. And I asked Mr. Coons, when was the last time Choate was audited? Never happened. And it was his belief, I don't want to put words in his mouth, that the town doesn't have the resources to do it because it would cost such an astronomical amount of money to do it, and they know that. So I'd almost rather see us hire a company like the one that was in the newspaper about Southington and say, you know what, have at it. Here it is. Because it's not going to cost us anything, and we can only benefit from it. I think we're well overdue for that, and I think everybody up there can agree. Because, yeah, they use our fire department that we pay for, the police department that we pay for, and all the other services, but they get the golden handshake. Nobody can park around their streets. They're the ones that got the flashing sidewalk things in the new bridge for $10. But yet all our taxes are going up on our dime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Michael, Meadow Street. Mayor, I'd asked before, but I wasn't sure if you had checked back or not, but is anywhere in your sector of the budget, is there a line item for an efficiency study? Third party?
Not yet.
Okay, and are you aware of any other department that you manage if they've put in a line item for an efficiency study?
I'm not.
Okay, so.
But I did say we would look into this the last time you asked.
Yep, you did, but I'm just putting it on record that just my personal feelings on it, that it's a little offensive to be sitting on the cusp of a historical tax hike. After 40 years of the same administration, relatively, and probably a good 8 to 10 average, maybe, of the core council. Does anybody here know of any time we've done an efficiency study here?
We're trying that one going with the fire department right now.
Townwide. I'm talking about we're $200 million, not just one here, this, that, or the other. I'm talking about townwide because, frankly, I think you owe it to us. I think you owe it to this town before you shove the hand of government deeper into our pockets to find out where you're wasting money. Because I'll argue with anybody if you try to tell me after 40 years of the same leadership and a decade of the same council that we don't have inefficiencies, that we don't have waste. And we're so quick to say that asphalt goes up and trucks go up and we need duplicate vehicles and another person managing this office, but we haven't even looked where we're wasting the money. So if it's not in this budget, does that mean it's not on the table for the next year? In other words, everyone in town is going to pay $1,000 more who has an average valued house. I'm doing an efficiency study in my house to make up for it. Do we need Netflix? Should we change our garbage carrier? Should we have a third car? But the town hasn't done that. And I think it's time we did, because that's an expenditure that pays us back year after year after year. It's a one-time purchase. Hey, this is a waste. You don't need this person. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but if their job isn't efficient, I'm paying the bill, and you should go. We have all these repairs coming. We've heard everybody talk about it. We're facing this historic tax hike without addressing those, for the most part. So I implore you to please look into this. As a group, as a person, it will pay us back. Nobody wants to get the black eye to show how inefficient we are, but we are. We are not a model of efficiency, and we're not even trying to be one.
Thank you. Anyone else for the mayor's office?
Jim Allen, Terrell Farms Way. Again, I don't think anybody's surprised that taxes are going to go up a little bit, right? We haven't spent any money in 20 years, so I think everybody understands that. Could people stomach maybe a 6, 7, 8% budget increase? So the budget's up 5.92%, going to go to the taxpayers about 19%, so it's about 3% a multiplier. So I think that somebody needs to go back to the department heads and say they got 2%. They can raise their budget by 2%. Look at efficiencies. We're going to spend $1 million in IT. I think, Mr. Mayor, you should call up the president of Choate, invite him to lunch, and say he needs to come to the party. Does anybody know what Choate's endowment is today? You want to take a guess? It's $440 million that they have for an endowment. They can certainly contribute to the town, and if we're worried about they're not going to have a summer concert, they're not going to do stuff for the town, sit down and have a conversation with them. Do the same thing with Sonicare, right? The emergency services, they're there every day. Sit down, have a conversation with them. I know, yes, there's legal issues and we need to look at the contract, but go old school. Go sit down and talk to them and say, we have an issue in the town, you guys need to step up. I think you need to freeze all capital. In the paper, there was a bid for a pickup truck for the police department. Don't get me wrong, the first responders are very important. What do we need a brand new pickup truck for? We got an officer driving around town in a Chevy Suburban. What's the repair cost and the gas cost about that? We can't go forward with a 19% increase. That's just insane. I mean, there's no way that, and you need to get the department heads involved in this, because what they're going to say is, oh, we didn't decide that. We put our budget, you guys cut it. Go back to them and say, hey, we need you to get your budgets down to 2%. If that means being more efficient with IT and losing some heads, that's where we need to be, because the town can't afford this. It's a wonderful town, right? It is. The downtown is nice. I don't know what the laws are, but could we put in a 1% tax for the restaurants? There's a lot of people from outside of town which comes into town to go to dinner, go to the wineries, right? We have some wonderful wineries in town. Put a small tax on there. If that's legal to do that to try to generate revenue, right? I understand we want to do a lot more. We need to upgrade. We need to look at how do we increase our revenue without putting it on the backs of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gross?
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. I know that there's some other communities that have what they call taxing districts, and we don't. And they charge different taxes for where they're located. Some of them are for emergency services, some are for municipal services such as water, et cetera. Why can't Wallingford set, and we'll just use Masonic Care because they were brought up, and that's a special tax district, and set it up in a way, after negotiations with them, a 1% tax, something like that. You can do the same thing with Choate. You can do the same thing with anything in town you want to. Whoever's heavy user of water, you could tax them. You can not tax them, charge them a different rate than you charge, and as you do now, there's different rates. And that brings me to the other part of this too. If large industries, whoever they are in town, have their taxes pretty much flat, for the most part, it seems, correct? They're not going up much if they go up. And because their buildings aren't being assessed the same way. Can't you raise the electric division rates on those? 1 cent kilowatt hour or something like that. Take the revenue, generate what the revenue is, and put that into the general fund. You do it for the roads. You do have a pilot program with the town already on that. So that's something that could be done. And also, who does the assessments of the large buildings? Is it our town? And I don't know who the assessor is. If you said it was Sam Carmody, I'd say, okay, I don't know who it is. I have no idea. So is that person capable or trained to be able to do a $20 million building as he is a house? Because those are unique. They're not the same, in large cities, you have guys that can do skyscrapers and 8, 10-story buildings because they generate different types of revenue. The cost to rebuild is different and all that type of stuff. Do we do that? And I would hope that you'd look at the taxing districts. If you can't tax differently, then set up taxing districts in the town of Wallingford. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Shardullo, 2 Bayberry Drive. On the assessment, I guess one of the piece of input I wanted to share was that I have questioned with the assessor, and I've raised this issue with a few people, the methodology that was used to assess the industrial and the commercial business segments, and it's kind of a black box in terms of how they do it. And so I think that's a real concern. And I think that you know, my sense is that a lot of this was done because they didn't go out physically to see all the homes like they normally do. This was a 5-year assessment. And I think a lot of this was done through a computer. If you really consider the impact of inflation on businesses, I think they did reasonably well compared to homeowners and consumers because businesses could raise prices. If you owned a building that you're renting, they raised rent. So I question that area, and that might be something we want to continue to look at. And we are looking at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. Mr. Jardillo brings up a point. If you look at some of the property transactions on some of these large buildings in some of the industrial areas in town, it'll say X. But the assessment value on it is why, in some cases, millions of dollars lower than they actually paid for the building 6 months previous to this. I don't know why that would be. And so, you know, no, appraised, not assessed, appraised, sorry. So the values, you know, they bought it for 10 million, but the town's appraising it for 8 or 7 in a short period of time. Well, if these people who are savvy, a lot of these are out-of-state buyers from Massachusetts, from New York, some even from out west. Why are they willing to pay 10 million for a property, and then the town comes back and say it's only worth 7? There's a lot of tax difference there on the $3 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the mayor? All right, moving on to Finance Department.
I know I'll run up my 3 minutes quickly. In the Finance Department, Bob Gross, Long Hill Road, I see that there was a line for how much we got in interest, and the interest went up this year. Can you explain how the town generates that interest? Because it's millions of dollars.
It gets invested in money markets,
What do you mean money markets?
like a high interest money market account. Right now, they're getting about 4%.
And with who do you have, whom do you have them with?
Spread it out.
I didn't spread out with,
So there's 5 banks, probably about 5. Bank of America, Santander, M&T.
why are we using money market funds when in some cases treasuries will pay higher? And why just banks? Why aren't we using investment companies?
Because you're not allowed to invest general fund money with investment companies. There's state statutes on how you can invest general fund money.
General Connecticut statutes permits municipalities to invest in obligations of the United States and its agencies. Highly rated obligations of any state. It goes on. It tells you as long as they're a fiduciary, say Fidelity, they're a fiduciary, you can invest in those kind of companies. I mean, you're going to trust Bank of America over, is there as trustworthy as, say, Fidelity or Schwab or BlackRock? I mean, none of them are great, but I'm just saying, you know all the issues that are going on. Who invests this money for us? Do we have somebody who actually is investing this money for us? Or how do we invest this money? Because there is sometimes a spread or a gap of 100 basis points, which is 1 point in interest. And if you're talking some sizable money, you could be millions of dollars a year.
It is $1 million a year.
Huh?
It is millions of dollars a year.
I understand that, but if you get an extra point in interest, it could be additional millions of dollars of interest a year.
So we have a treasurer, we look into it, and we make sure we're following the state statutes.
What state statutes say you can you can take your investments and do them in government
So
securities?
it's got to be liquid.
Government securities
the
are...
money, it comes in and out.
No, it says here that you can do short-term obligations. Because you don't need the money every 30 days, every 60 days.
So
you know that 10 million could be sitting for 30 days.
So we have a treasurer, we follow our policies. I'll look into it for you.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not me that you're going to look into it for. I would hope it's for the town. I hope it's for the council, because how much money are we investing that we have this kind of return?
Whatever we have available is invested.
So ballpark, sitting on money August 1st, what do you have, 60 million, 70 million?
Well, August 1st? I don't know off the top
Or
of
any
my head.
date.
Probably.
So, 1% on some kind of money on that every month is a lot of money. And why are you in 5 different banks? Why aren't you, what difference does it make to you? Because what are they investing in to give you that return?
It's to collateralize and to spread it out. And so you put it all in one pot, and that's the bank that goes under, we're screwed.
But you have to know what they're investing in. What are they investing in? They're not just taking the money and saying, okay, we're just going to give you back your money. I would hope that you know what they're investing in.
It's a money market account.
But what's the money market invested in? Because if it's government securities, let's say it's treasury, short term, say it's treasury bills, short term, 30, 60 days, and you're buying them directly, say from the government, there is no risk. The only risk is if the government folds. If you're investing through a bank and you're not in a government security, if the bank folds, yes, you could lose money. Are we taking that into consideration? That's where a fiduciary comes into play. I don't know if banks are fiduciaries. Are they? I mean, I don't know the banks that you're investing with. I'm not. Mr. Chardillo wants to go. I'll come back.
You all set? Okay, Mr. Chardillo doesn't have anything to follow up on, so go ahead, Bob.
So we'll look into it.
So the council, hopefully, I mean, I saw some heads nodding. I'm hoping that we'll see some action because I think in the book it said there was like $3.2 million in interest last year. So, I mean, is that the approximate number? I think it's something. I think the CAFRA said there was 2 million more because interest rates had gone up, which they had, but they're starting back down now.
What line are you referring to?
I don't have the book. I'm just going from, I read it and I just
So
tried to
last
remember.
year, we earned $3.1 million. This year, we're on track for about 2.5, which is why I budgeted 2.5 for next year.
And I'm just curious, how can you, that's a tough number to put a number on, just for the council's sake too. Because if rates start to really plummet, and you're in just money markets, they're gonna plummet very rapidly. I mean, you could see them go down 0.5% a month or something of that nature, depending on what rates do, especially if the Fed lowers rates, which they are contemplating, not in the short term, I don't think. I would just hope that the council would look at this. This is a revenue part of the budget that I don't think we're paying any detail to. I think we should have an investment. I think that we should have a finance committee. There are people in town here that are financially savvy. I don't mean own a business, that are heads, or not heads of, but they're VPs of, say, a big investment company or something of this nature that could give the town ideas. Many towns have finance committees and they give advice to the town. Some of them do the investments for the town, as we do with our pension commission, which is coming up. The town doesn't do that. They have a pension commission that you have 5 people on that make the investment choices of a $250 million budget, $250 million, I think, or more, that's in the pension, and you guys don't oversee that. You don't even know what's going on in there. This is small money compared to that. This is probably 60 to 70 million to get that kind of return last year on an over. So that's still a lot of money. So I would hope that the town would look further into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for finance? Moving on to contingency.
Paul Chardillo, 2 Bayberry Drive. Mr. Chairman, I raised my hand when you said cap non-recurring. I don't know if you saw saw it, but I have two specific issues I want to focus on.
Go ahead,
One
it's the
is
same department, so go right ahead.
Okay. First one is the contingency fund. I don't see a need for a contingency fund. Mr. Senna and I began to engage on that a couple weeks ago, and I never got a chance to respond, but I'd like to now. Considering that we have a rainy day fund, which, is currently at $20 million, $22 million, and the purpose of that fund really has multiple purposes, but one of them is in the event that you have an unusual circumstances not planned, then you can come and take money from that fund. So I guess I'm back to, if we have that, which we do, why do we need a contingency fund? And this year, we're budgeting $1.8 million, which goes right to the taxes. It's not a departmental issue. It's just in case something happens. And the second point I'll make is that beyond the rainy day fund, if you look at our performance over the last 6 years, and I have, we have underspent every single year by between 3.2 million and 7.7 million. So obviously we're underspending it every year. And we have, as you go through the year, if one department needs money, the mayor, I believe, can simply move budget dollars from an underspending department that doesn't need it to a department that does need it. So that's a second reason that I don't see the need for it. I'm open to any response, if anybody wants to make them. Okay, if not, that's basically my issue on the contingency fund. It's $1.8 million. The second one is the cap non-recurring. Every year, we put in the expense budget. This year, it's $2.1 million we're taxing for it. It's in the expense budget. That money goes into a fund, obviously called the capital non-recurring fund. And it's used to pay cash for items that could and should be bonded. I don't understand why we're doing that. I think that's another one of these processes that was implemented years ago, and we just keep doing it. And yes, it avoids bonding, but we're doing it at the expense of the taxpayer. So I think that's something that we need to take a look at. On the bonding, the town has some of the lowest issuances of bonds in the state of Connecticut. So it's not the fact that we don't have room to bond. Last point on the bonding, it's cheaper to bond in the long term than it is to pay cash. If you run the numbers, talk to a bond expert, you will see that it is less expensive because we pay the interest back in inflated dollars, and the accrual money that we accrue every year to pay the bond back collects interest. So if we issue a 20-year bond, at the end of 20 years, we pay the bond off and we got $500,000 left over. So I guess I'll close by saying these are decisions that the council has to make, but I think those are two specific, very easy to change items. If you were to take a motion, delete them, you would cut our taxes by $4 million next year. Wouldn't affect a single department in the town. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for contingency? Moving on, last one is the pension contribution.
Just one last thing on the last one. If you do look at the money markets at the banks, do pay attention to what their fees are versus with Treasury, you buy direct, there's no fees. You buy yourself. So don't just look at the rate, look at the net rate. The pension this year is $11 million the town's paying. Does the council or the controller, anybody know how our funds have done versus the S&P 500 over the years?
That's a question for the pension commission. That has nothing to do with this budget.
This pension I was talking about, so.
No, in this budget, there's one line, pension contributions.
Okay.
That is a number.
Here's the question
That
then.
is calculated a percentage of payroll.
If the pension fund does better than it's done and says, we do better, I think there's approximately, can you give us an idea of how much money is it? 250 million? Somewhere in that range?
I didn't look today, but
In
it's
that
around
range?
there, yes.
Ballpark?
Markets have been going a little crazy lately.
Well, today was flat for the most part, but 250 million thereabouts. If we can do a better return, and I know you could. I mean, there's very few people that have ever beaten the S&P 500 on a long-term basis. Of course, you hear about Warren Buffett, and then Simon. There's a few guys out there that have done it over the years, but they're investing in different types of, they can private place money and so forth like that. We could do that, but we don't do that. So we can't beat it. So I would hope that the town, for the amount of money that we have in there, we would just index the money in S&P 500. And the reason why is pretty simple. And I've said this before, and this was in the Wall Street Journal, March 28th of this year. So it's not that long ago, because I have articles going back 20 years. You can't beat the S&P 500. And it says here, none of us are Warren Buffett. Luckily, there's a cheap and easy way to own all of these rare winners and to do so for long enough with a large enough stake. They're talking long-time winners, meaning in the market, there's only a few winners. Pretty much every stock is not going to beat the bonds. So you have to own them all unless you can pick the winners. Very few people can. So that's what they're talking about there. It's called an index fund. Indexes don't know any better than to buy long shots and then hang on to them when they get uncomfortably large and frothy. Means the market becomes overvalued. The downside of that approach is settling for an average because you own all of the losers too. But being average still beats 90% of all active funds over the years, over time. So I'd love to hit 900. I don't think anybody would not love to hit 900. So why we have some of these funds, international funds, and this one investing in this type of fund, because on $250 million, you get a 1% increase, that's $2.5 million. If you can get 10% over a few year period, it's 25 million. So I would think, going to the controller now, if we had, instead of 250 million in there, 350 million in there, would that make our contribution less than the 11 point something million dollars?
Yes.
So that would be a way that the town can lower taxes for the citizens without putting any strain on businesses, town, asking money from which we should. But I'm just saying, these are another avenue that we have not, in my opinion, we've mismanaged our money over the years. Between this and then the small-term investing, and I can give you the statute that shows that you can do it. Even the ARPA money should have been invested. I don't think it was. The 13 million should have been invested with short-term CDs or something, treasuries, because it was allowed to be done. Normally in grant money, you can't do that because they don't allow you to make money on money, but that one was allowed to. Do we have anybody actively doing this for the town? Because we're talking not $100,000 here. We're talking, we control tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So hopefully the council will look at all this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shardullo?
Just a comment and a question on the pension. As Bob mentioned, we have an $85 million unfunded liability. It's probably going to go higher this year because of the market. 14.5% of our entire general government budget is the contribution to the pension, and it's growing. If you go back and look at 15 years, in 2007, we were matching employees at about 2.5 million. Today, because the system is underperforming, we're paying 11.6 million, and it's growing. And it's almost the biggest part of our expenses in general government. So that's my comment. I have a request of the mayor. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I would like to ask, would you acknowledge that we have a pension problem and we have to do something? That's all I'm asking. Not asking you to fix it, just acknowledge it.
I will commit to have a discussion with our pension commission.
Okay, great. And I'm certainly available to participate in that if you would like to invite me. Thank you.
Bob goes on about two things. If you talk to the pension commission, remember who is their advisor. It's a person from Wall Street. So they're going to want to sell you things because that's how they make money. They don't make money by telling you to index and buying treasuries direct and all this type of stuff. They make money by selling you other things. That's why you hear all these type of investments. And two is when you compare the rate of return on what the pension fund has done versus what the S&P has done, make sure you do apples to apples because our calendar year is different than the S&P year. You have to get it on because we use a July 1st year, as you know, and S&P's usually calculated January 1st to December 31st. So just make sure you do apples to apples on that. And you'll see, because I've done it out, you'll see that we don't beat it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that would be all the departments that we have for this evening. Seeing no other business on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.